Hello, all. This is the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. So last week we were in episode 42 and we talked about the positive and negative impacts of social media on your confidence. Last week, I told you that this week I would give you a list of activities you could do instead of social media and improve your relationships with yourself and with your family and friends. I guarantee you, if you intentionally commit to blocking out time and replacing social media usage with one or two of these 10 or so activities that we'll talk about today, you will begin to see improvements not only in how you feel about yourself, but how you feel about your spouse or your kids. Your relationships will be improved. Hello, you're listening in to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. And today I'm going to do something completely different than I normally do when I introduce the podcast. I just want to give a very special shout out to all the people who are listening from across the world. And I want to give shout outs to all of you. Of course, I have lots of listeners from the United States, but I'm going to list all the other places that have been listening in. If you are in South Africa, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, India, Australia, Czech Republic, Mauritius, which I had to look up by the way, New Zealand, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Malaysia, Nigeria, Netherlands, Russia, Algeria, Hong Kong, Ireland, Kenya, Sweden, and Trinidad and Tobago, I thank you from the very bottom of my heart for listening in. It is incredible to think that I can be recording my little voice in Buda, Texas, and people all over the world are listening in. Again, from the bottom of my heart, I so thank you. Please continue to share the podcast if you're listening in, especially if you're listening in from across the world. And I hope you enjoy the rest of today's podcast. That is a carryover from last week, all about social media. And today we're just talking about the activities that can help you get away from social media and your digital assets that you're constantly putting your hands on. Have a fabulous day and enjoy the rest of the podcast. Just the other day, I caught myself with phone in hand during a car ride with my husband for nearly 30 minutes or so without saying one word. When I realized that I was kind of just being absent, I kind of felt embarrassed and frustrated with myself because I miss him when we don't have quality time. And here we were together with a perfect opportunity to have one-on-one conversation, and I didn't seize that opportunity. Instead, I tuned out, or should I say, I tuned in to my phone instead of him. Personally, I just don't want to wake up one day and regret choosing a phone over my relationship. The first step is awareness. I'm now more aware, and I'm becoming more and more aware every day. And that's the best we can do, right? But it's time to do the work and prevent it from happening over and over. My intention now is to hold myself accountable, and it's just to be more present because it's going to take work, probably more than I want, but that's okay because my relationship is definitely worth it. My question to you is, what are your relationships worth to you? Could you put your phone down for a car ride, an evening, a few nights a week? Or if it meant that you had deeper, more meaningful connections, would you be willing to put it down every night for a few hours? What is it worth to you? What are your relationships worth to you? If you're listening in and you're thinking, yes, it would be worth it, but what would we do instead? If you think you're going to feel lost without your phone, or you know your spouse or your kids will feel lost without the device in hand, this is your sign to go grab a seat, a pen, and a pad of paper and write down the ways that you could reconnect instead of putting that phone in your hand or putting your head down and consuming social media feeds or watching TV. Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to share some activities that you can do, and they'll help you build those better relationships. But if you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I've got this, social media isn't an issue, I am going to share a few things with you. There are some statistics that say you and I both need to be concerned about how social media is being used in our household. According to the National Institutes of Health, The overuse of digital media puts your kids at risk for depression and anxiety, the inability to get enough sleep, obesity, and cyberbullying. Let me tell you, kids do not need any help in an already difficult world to navigate. Overusing social media is exacerbating it. You, as a parent, have the ability to help them navigate this one small piece that may have a big impact in their overall mental health. And mental health is just declining. That is a big deal. Just as concerning is a study in 2023 by American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers that said social media was cited as a reason for divorce in 1/3 of the cases surveyed. Social media is making bigger impact on our lives than we're even aware of. But hey, this episode is not all doom and gloom. There are activities you can engage in with your spouse, your children, or extended family and friends that will lead to better relationships. So we don't need to have fear about it. We just need to be intentional about it. The first thing to consider is actually scheduling phone-free, TV-free time and replacing it with activities that will encourage interaction and help create connection and bonding. I'm going to start easy here. One of the easiest ways is to cook together. We all have to eat, right? Every single one of us. It is actually one of the most used ways of connecting with people in general. Most of us eat out multiple times a week. Many people go to eat with friends and family and that sort of thing. But when you think about that, yes, that is engagement and that is great. And it could be used as your weekly thing to do. But what if you actually cook together? There are many, many ways you could do it. You could create a themed night that's a themed dinner night, or a homemade dinner night, or even a takeout night if your family typically eats at home. The options are endless. Just be creative. And the key is to have fun and do it together, device free. That is the key, making it device free. You can combine this with my second activity, or you could do it separately. So game night, card games, board games, or find in it to win it games that you can create at home. My sister-in-law recently sent me an in it to win it game that was literally just solo cups, red solo cups with strings outside of them, and you pull the string. You didn't know which cup you were pulling, but when you opened the cup or lifted the cup, there was a different prize inside. And that was super creative, very inexpensive and fun, and it could be a great connection game for a whole list of people in your family, anywhere from 4-year-old to 100-year-old. It would not matter how old you are, it'd be easy to put together. So think back to your childhood. What games did you like to play? I have a very fond memory of my grandparents playing Duck, Duck, Goose with us, literally. Indian style, going around the circle, hitting the top of your heads, Duck, Duck, Goose, and you had to chase that person around the circle. Now, I'm probably not going to be playing Duck, Duck, Goose anytime soon, but it's such a great memory. I love that memory. Be creative and have fun with that. The other thing you could do is you could have a book night and read a book together. Or you could have a book club. I have a dear friend that has a book club with her sons that live outside the home. They read the same book, and then they get together every other week for a dinner night and book club review. They have rules, and then they just stick to the rules, but they have a blast and they stay connected. The one thing I love the most is how her eyes light up when she talks about those evenings with her sons. It is like Christmas every 2 weeks for her. It's incredible to see how much she looks forward to it, and I love that she stays engaged with her boys, and they are all out of the home already. Of course, what books they choose is important too, but that's something they've worked out, and they stay engaged around it. It's super, super cool. If books are not your thing, that's okay, not a big deal. Maybe do a puzzle together. That would be low key, and it's a fun activity that doesn't have to be engaged in a lot of energy, but you could have time to talk, and it's perfect for someone who's homebound or isn't as active for some reason. Last year, I had surgery, and my husband and I did several puzzles together, and I really enjoyed that time. If your family is more active, and maybe your goal is to burn off some energy with some active kids, maybe you could have a family sports day. That's another great way To engage your family, maybe you just play mini sports games like soccer or relay races or in it to win it games. You could even have different people be in charge of creating the games or choosing the games each week at the specific time. If you are just wanting to connect, you could take a hike every day or walk every day or every scheduled Friday, something like that, just to get out of the house and have some activity. Another activity that you can do is volunteer. You can do this as a couple or as a family. There are literally endless opportunities to volunteer. You can find those opportunities all over. You just have to be open to it and looking for it. You can find community organizations, service projects, or local charities that are looking for people to volunteer. And it helps build awareness, especially if you have children or even a spouse that you want to be more aware of what's going on in the community and what the needs are in the community. It's a great way to get connected with that and get out of the idea of being in the phone and looking at everyone else and what everyone else has going on. It brings you back to simple, more character building activities versus just being in front of the TV or in front of your phone. The other thing is that you could use your smart TVs and sign up for, or your computers to sign up for an online class together, or go out and take a class together, a dance class, a project class, something that you build together or create something. Maybe it's arts and crafts. Or one fun thing that I thought was cool as a class or a combo thing, my brother and sister-in-law, they signed up for a year of a mystery solving program. I don't really know the name of the program, but they were getting these clues in the mail and they had a map and then these clues and all of this information would come to them. And as a family, they would try to solve the mystery. It was super fun. They had a great time. And I think the kids got pretty into it. So that's another very creative kind of class or combination thing you could do. Other thing you could do is you could write letters to one another. When was the last time that you opened a written letter? Hear me out here. Although it may not be an activity together, when I was in high school, my mother and I would write one another handwritten notes. I would fold my lined paper in a way that created that little bitty envelope. It's almost like that little paper football we used to do. And then I would leave that on her door and then she would tape her answer to my door overnight. And then I would take it to school, write it at school and bring it back. We just went on like that. And I just look forward to hearing back from her on the letters, even though we saw each other every night. I just think that handwritten letters are something that are oftentimes you can tell your ideas or thoughts or feelings or whatever, writing them on paper sometimes are easier than actually talking in person, but also it's just a way to give the other person something to look forward to. And in the future, you have it in writing and something you can go back to and look at. So consider, what would it look like if you wrote each other notes? Is there a little mailbox you could create in your house where you wrote each other little love notes or whatever kind of notes you want to call it? It would be a fun activity for the family to be engaged in. Number 9, you could simply just have a scheduled family meeting, a time that is set aside to connect, share important events, and plan for important future events. When I was younger, we had these meetings that we called powwows, which as a family, we would just sit down in a circle and we would talk about everything from chores to hurt feelings or when my brother broke a ring I had, all the things. And maybe we even talked about like what we wanted for dinner the next week, that sort of thing. I can remember at times it was emotional and I can remember it being hard because we had difficult conversations in that circle, but it was really good to learn how to communicate and be uncomfortable. It was a great time for our family to just get together and be 100% focused on one another. The other thing you could do is you could establish a family tradition. Create a weekly movie night or monthly outing, or have specific activities planned around the activities that are already in your calendar. For instance, if you go to church, you could have lunch every Sunday after church, or you could go to a local burger joint after every home game if you have a child in a competitive sport. Maybe you could go play bingo every Thursday night or to trivia night. Anything works as long as you're doing it together and it's device down time. no devices involved. You're just there connecting and enjoying the time there. Your goal for device-free activities isn't to perfectly entertain one another. It's just to engage fully with one another without the disruption of your phone or your television. Committing to a specified amount of time without interruption. Let me tell you, this commitment, it shows that you have respect for one another, and it implies the importance of the relationship. As individuals, we're always changing, so you might need to change up the activities as your relationship changes or as individuals change. But one thing is for sure, is that your relationships deserve time and attention. When you intentionally give your time and 100% of your attention, you will see a difference in how connected you feel. I cannot wait to see what activities you come up with or what activities you do that I've shared today. I think it's super fun to hear how other people interpret or what other people's already established activities are. So please feel free to jump into Instagram and drop those notes down, and I'll make a specific post about which activities that you have that are super supportive for your family, that are device-free and are improving your relationships along the way. I really am glad that you're here. I hope you found something in today's episode that you can go apply and give that time and attention to the relationships that you have in your life that are important to you. And friend, let me tell you, if you have a relationship that is suffering or you're feeling lost and can't connect, I would love to help you. That is one of the things that I help my clients do, is reconnect with themselves so they can reconnect better with the people that they love in their lives. So if you're unsure if that is something that you need, jump over to thecrazyconfidencecoach.com and sign up for a free discovery call. It doesn't cost you a thing, and I can tell you if it's something I can help you with. I love relationships. I think they are exactly what we need in our lives to feel fulfilled and have a better, joyful, more meaningful life. Please don't let yours suffer. There is no need, but sometimes when we're inside of them, we feel trapped or frustrated or out of sorts, and somebody from the outside can help you sort through that, and I can be that person for you. Hey, I want to thank you for listening in to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I really hope you learned something valuable today. Can you do me the biggest favor? Right now, could you share the show with 3 people you know that might enjoy listening in? If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you took the time to leave a rating or review. This helps people just like you find the podcast so they can also get great fun tips about confidence. Then don't forget, come back each week and we will keep giving out little tips for how to increase your confidence, how to ditch that self-doubt and stop your negative thought patterns so you can get back to your crazy confident self and pursue your biggest dreams fearlessly. See you next week. Love you big.